Good morning, watch nerds. I think I'm going through an old life crisis, and I'll tell you why. Of late, I've been flipping and buying a fair few divers and Garda watches, and kind of neglected everything else, so I bought myself a Mr. Jones A Perfectly Useless Afternoon and 2 vintage Seikos. What's stranger is that I recently sold an Orient Star, which is technically a better watch than the one I'm reviewing today. The problem with the Star was that I never really thought it was a dress watch, nor did I think it was a sports watch, and as I'm easily confused, I sold it. Now, my son got married in November, and his watch was a gold coloured T-Solar Lockle. Now, I'd never been a great fan of gold watches up until then, but I have to say, the Lockle looked absolutely fantastic, although at 40mm I think is a tad large for a dress watch. In actual fact, the original Bambino was 40.5mm, which, considering the watch is nearly all dial, I think it's just too big. Of course, I don't have large wrists, so I'm a little bit biased when it comes to watch sizes. In fact, I can't help but think the ideal size for a Bambino may be around 36 or 37mm. And this is my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Orient Bambino 38. By buying this watch, I broke some of my unwritten rules. Even at the price I bought this for, and I'll get to that soon, I don't think it represents particularly good value, but at the full price in the UK I think it represents dreadful value. Of course, mainstream brands such as Orient will always be dearer than the equivalent micro brand or Chinese factory brand with a similar spec. In brief, I bought this watch based purely on aesthetics, albeit that doesn't mean it's a poor watch, because it certainly isn't. I would imagine most of you already know, but Orient are a Japanese brand and they're owned by Seiko. However, they're run totally separately, and to my knowledge don't share any parts or personnel. They've been around even longer than me, and they started their existence back in 1950. So let's have a look at this little darling, starting with the dimensions. The case is 38.4mm, the lug width is 20mm, the lug to lug is 44mm, and the depth including a very dome mineral crystal is 12.5mm. Yes, I know it's mineral crystal, I can't really defend that. However, I don't consider this a daily wearer, so unless you're particularly clumsy, it should be okay. Now, the advantage of mineral crystal that most reviewers won't tell you is actually it's far less reflective than sapphire. Now that's seeing the glass half full. Finally, on a leather strap, it weighs in at 68 grams. On the subject of straps. Now, I'm no lover of croc print straps, but for the life of me I can't think of anything that actually suits this watch better. Here is a little strap fashion show for you. Tell me what you think. Whoops, I almost forgot to show you the packaging, which by the way isn't bad. It's a felt line flip box. Inside the box would have been a 1-year warranty, which I think's a bit mean. The person who sold me this unworn one supplied it with 2 straps. The original brown leather crop print with matching gold hardware, which I think is okay, and a black aftermarket one, which is what you're looking at now. I never use the supplied strap, so I believe it adds value to the watch if I ever sell it. There's a tip for you. So what will I be replacing it with? Well, one that looks pretty much the same as the supplied brown one, because to be honest, I think it's the best match for the watch, and that's going to be arriving soon. Making the hands go around is the in-house F6724 22 jewelled automatic movement. It ticks away at 21,600 beats per hour, hacks and hand winds, and like all Orient movements is reliable and robust. I've had the YM55 Orient movement in a few watches now, and to be honest, I rate it higher than the Seiko NH35. That's due to better positional variance. I'm going to show you this one on a time grapher. Although running very well and within tolerance, in real life it's running at about plus 9 seconds a day. And there we are, the time grapher actually indicates it's running a bit faster than it is, but that's the norm. Good beat error, good amplitude. So this is the real reason I bought the watch, the dial. It's simple, it's classic and it's gorgeous. Because the case is gold, it would have been easy to give it a cream or a gold dial, but I think that may have been a little bit too much. However, having the gold Dauphine hands and applied indices was always essential. This is exactly what the dial of a dress watch should look like. And if I do ever get knighted as planned, this may be the watch I'll wear. As you can see, there is a date window at 3 o'clock, but it wouldn't have bothered me if it didn't exist. Under the 12 o'clock is the fantastic Orient logo, which I happen to love, with Orient and automatic printed below that. Strangely enough, they chose to print water resistant above the 6 o'clock, which is strange, as it's only 30 metres, which in reality is just splash proof. For you loom freaks, there isn't any, as there shouldn't be on this type of watch. On my Orient Star they included loom, which was a mistake because it was absolutely useless. Moving on to the case. Well, it certainly isn't solid gold at this price, but despite researching the subject, I've no idea what it's actually coated in, although I do know the base is stainless steel. Now the tops of the lugs are polished, whilst the sides are finely brushed. There is a nice downturn, which means the watch fits nicely on the back of the wrist, but once again, I can't help feeling it should have been smaller. The case back is of the exhibition variety and it's made of mineral crystal, and it shows off the movement, which does at least have some sort of decoration on the rotor. The sides are rounded and they've got some basic information engraved on them, but unfortunately it's got a snap-on case and that never makes me happy. So why should you buy an Orient Star 38? And why shouldn't you? Well, I've pretty much covered it already, but I'll go back over it in brief. I believe Orient could have included sapphire crystal, especially as the prices of sapphire have come down so much over the years. Secondly, I don't think the strap is as bad as some reviewers say, but it isn't that great either, and it will take a bit of breaking in. Lastly, the price. Of course, it will be a lot cheaper in the USA as everything is, but in the UK, expect to pay about £300, which when you look at the specs, makes it overpriced in my opinion. I managed to pick up an unused one from an eBay seller for £160 plus postage, which is probably about what it's worth. But going back on what I said earlier, mainstream branded watches generally do cost a little bit more. But I suppose the residual value is also better. You've got to take that into account. On the positive side, it looks bloody lovely. The dimensions are so much better than the original version, and the movement is pretty good as well. If you want a nice quality dress watch from an established manufacturer, and you can pick one up at a decent price, I would certainly consider one of these. Especially as there's literally loads of different designs. So this brings me to the end of this review. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to click on the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.